I recently upgraded my RAM from 16 to 32 gigabytes using two Corsair Vengeance cards, specifically to try to improve my Star Citizen gameplay, which can be notoriously difficult to fine-tune. I want to show you a close comparison of how the game performed before and after the upgrade to help anyone else who may be considering doing the same. Keep in mind that there are a lot more moving pieces to graphics and gameplay than simply how much RAM you have, and I won't be making any recommendations for you. I just want to show you what I did. It won't be an exact one-to-one comparison because of a few variables like server load and that I won't be using the same ship in each one. So we are going to start with some gameplay footage where I did my best to recreate the environments which gave me the most frame drops when I first played and do a side-by-side comparison with how it looks using the same settings in the same locations, with the RAM upgrade being the only difference. Then towards the end I'm going to show you all of the fine-tuning I did and offer an explanation of why I did it. I want to first show you the settings I used based on what I knew about the game at the time. I lowered everything to medium across the board, thinking that would make things easier to render in. In most cases, this is actually the wrong thing to do. In Star Citizen, the brunt of everything resource-wise falls on your CPU to carry. Turning down the graphics settings shifts more of the load from your lazy millennial of a graphics card onto your CPU. Not sure why I threw that shot at millennials in. The point is that it's better to put your graphics on high or very high, so even though I had it wrong in the beginning, I'm still going to use those settings as a comparison since that's what was in the video. With that out of the way, let's go over to New Babbage, this terrible, awful, goddamn place that can really max out a CPU if you let it. With it being a new experience and all of the sweet ships lying around from the expo, it really was like being in a candy store with drunk goggles on. Let's have a look at the first place that gave me the most trouble, and that is the tram system. Right now we're going to look at the pre-upgrade footage that I had. This is at 16 gigabytes with not a lot else different except for perhaps the server load, which again, I can't really do anything about that, so make of that what you will. I know that this is tough to look at, so let's feast your eyes on something a little better. Before I even got to the tram station, I noticed an immediate difference, a definite improvement in my frame rates, a lot less chop, and frankly the textures just looked better, like they had time to load in before I actually walked like right up to them. Keep in mind that I am rendering all of this on an RX 570 graphics card, which was mid-grade at best several years ago, so it's not really doing me many favors now. But as bad as it is, I will defend it to the last because I've built my entire YouTube channel with it. I've pushed it to its max several times over. It's endured well over 1,000 hours of rendering. It's just been beat to hell, but it's still kicking, so maybe I'll hang this thing up on the wall somewhere when I'm done, or give it away. I don't know. Moving on to the next place where I had a great deal of trouble was at the New Babbage spaceport. I don't think that's what it's called, but that's what I'm going to call it. The combination of a lot of NPC activity, just the presence of the ship or ships themselves, and not to mention the perpetual ice storm that's happening on the surface of the planet, all combines to kick my CPU squarely in the dick. I performed 2 takeoffs in 2 different ships, and you're witnessing the first one right now, which was by far the messiest. Not only was my piloting off and the craft damaged before I even left the hangar, but I had left volumetric clouds on as well, which was a complete mistake. My second takeoff went a little more smoothly for a couple reasons. One being that I didn't smash my ship to hell before even leaving the hangar, and 2, the volumetric clouds were turned off. And even with them off, you still get the effects of the ice storm when you're right at the surface, and you can actually see the moment it tanks as I fly through it. This happened to mark the moment where I kind of decided that I was going to stick around Star Citizen because I could tell that there were ways of getting around this choppiness, you know, if I didn't really have the money to upgrade. And I still wanted to have some kind of experience, whether or not I uploaded it to YouTube. There were quite a few people who took issue with the fact I did upload this to YouTube, either because it portrayed the game in a negative light, or because they were just flat out poor shaming me, like, you bad graphics having broke piece of shit, get off of my game. You might think I'm exaggerating, but if you scroll through the comments enough on that first video, you're gonna see that sentiment expressed in an unironic fashion, and it is the funniest thing you have ever seen. So getting back to the comparison, here is the footage of me taking off from that same port in a different ship, but with the same settings on. It might not look it, but to me it felt like a world of difference. I could actually control the ship. I didn't have to wait a second between frames to figure out what was going on. And to me, it made the game actually playable, not just, well, I'll play it and hope no one finds out that this is the way that I've been doing it. Compared to any other game I've played, Star Citizen has required the most massaging and poking and prodding to get it to a state that was playable for me. And I'm willing to do that if there is a reward for doing so in gameplay. And in my case, I can safely say that, well, no shit, more RAM actually helped it work better. But, you know, all told, was it worth it? Yeah, I would do it again, and frankly, I needed a RAM upgrade anyway. If you were in the same boat that I was, and you didn't already know this, just keep in mind that quality of RAM matters as well. It's the speed and the manufacturer. Just, you know, when you're doing your Googling, just keep that in mind. And while we are watching this magnificent gameplay, I do want to acknowledge that most everything that I've told you guys here in this video, I learned from the community, the Star Citizen community, who kind of came to my rescue when I posted some of the worst bullshit YouTube has ever seen. So on that same note, if I've screwed up anything here and you know a better way of doing things, please, by all means, let me know in the comments. Pats on the back are great, but I actually learned from getting smashed in the face, so I will be getting back to actual gameplay, exploring the verse, doing missions, checking out some other ships, probably joining an org, and figuring out how all that works in upcoming videos pretty soon. So if that's something you want to see and you're interested, give me a sub. Stick around. You won't regret it. And if you're a complete Yahoo, you can become a channel member or Patreon supporter, and you will get videos early and the full uncut versions of the videos as they come out. So if that's something you're interested in too, go ahead and join up. I will see you next time. Mike Tannick out.